Hi everyone. So today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to look at the chart of an opening night of an event. Okay. And this event is the start of the Let Me Entertain You tour. That is Giovanni show. It's part of the Strictly Theatre Company production. And this show is going to be touring up and down the UK, including Ireland as well, from tomorrow, 18th of January, up to the 30th of April. So it's going to be going on for 3 and a bit months. A lot of shows. Okay. I think I calculated it correctly. 77 dates. Of course, there's going to be more shows than that because some dates will have a matinee and an evening performance. And what struck me as very interesting straight off the bat, if I've counted it correctly, is that 77 dates, well, that's a powerful master number in itself because it's a deeply spiritual number, but also it symbolizes fortune. So brilliant. Okay, great to start off with. And you'll see in the chart why I'm mentioning that now. Okay, and I'll come on to that very soon. But I thought it'd be interesting to just look at this as an opening night event, look at the transits, and just to bear in mind for you watching that, of course, take it as it resonates and applies. But this is a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time. And I've gone on the basis of the show time, start time, and the area that the show is taking place. But of course, there's going to be people in the audience watching the show. There's going to be crew behind the scenes, and there's going to be the cast performing the show. So unless you've got the specific members of the cast or crew and their chart against this other chart of the event, it's really just to show you the event, okay, as a astrological overview. But if you did have those charts of cast and crew members, you could then see how the energies, the planetary influences could be impacting on their chart because of their own unique placements within their natal chart. And of course, I do this with my astrology overviews when I look at the collective for, say, a full moon or a new moon, and I look at the UK's chart against the transits, just to give an indication of how that could be influencing the collective. And for personal readings, I would take the individual's natal chart and the transits of the event as a horoscope, okay, or a moonscope. So it's very important just to mention that because this is just looking at the transits of the event, but it's still very interesting, okay, as you'll see. And I've done something similar to this with Hollywood Vampires tour, okay, because it gives an idea, but it is bearing in mind that, yes, there's people in the audience and people on stage, etc. So it could apply in both ways. It's very collective-y in that way. But also, I covered last May, I covered Johnny Depp's film premiere at the Cannes Film Festival and made some predictions within that because I pulled up Johnny's chart at the time. So again, his chart, the transits of that premiere and how that could influence him, made some predictions, and they did come true. So this is why I love astrology. I'm fascinated by it. I believe in astrology, very much so. But everyone is free to have their own beliefs, okay? And, you know, you might be watching this and not really know what this show is all about, but you might just be intrigued about the astrology because of the descriptions, because, of course, the alignments are going to mean something. So without further ado, let's jump into the chart. And I will say, this is probably the 5th time I've tried to record it because I think, you know, if blooper reel was to be a thing on my channel, then that would be something for inclusion because there were quite a few bloopers and then my phone decided to fall off the stand. So that's why it's a bit wonky at the moment. So you'll have to forgive me for that. Okay, I think I've got it now. There we go. I'll just have to be careful and sensitive with it. So you can see the chart there. So Let Me Entertain You, opening night in Hayes, which is in the UK, at 19:30. Okay, so GMT time, opening night of the show. And I mentioned about 77 representing fortune and, you know, success. Well, we have got Pars Fortunae here. otherwise known as the pot of fortune, and we have got the vertex point, which is a very fated and destined point. It shows up to give an indication of fated and destined moments. So of course, if there's a certain aspect going on, a certain conjunction, it's worth taking note of, okay? And it just may be that it means something on that occasion. And again, when we're looking at our own charts against an event, depending on where our vertex point is, that could be extremely fated and destined, okay, in terms of predictions, etc. So I'm going to zoom in, and again, I'm going to try and be sensitive with the phone. So we've got here Pars Fortunae, the pot of fortune, in Taurus at 23 degrees. Okay, we've also got other energy in Taurus, Uranus, the moon, and Jupiter. And you'll notice that there is an exact conjunction with the moon and Jupiter at that point. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute because that's also very applicable. Okay. And the vertex point is down here at 0 degrees of Aquarius. This is not to be taken lightly, in my view, because you'll notice that Pluto is right there at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and the Sun is there at 28 degrees of Capricorn. Hopefully I said that in the right way. Apologies. Because I think what I was going to say is I'll mention this, or I may have mentioned this in the astrology report, because of course I have covered the Pluto transit into Aquarius. It's coming up on the weekend, 21st for us in the UK. And that's going to be a big deal because the Sun and Pluto are going to be doing a dance. And that dance is going to be just less than 24 hours. The last 23 minutes of such is going to be intense because they're going to be exactly conjunct at 29:59, so 29 degrees, 59 minutes. You can see on this chart now, because it's a few days before that event, that one's at 28, one's at 29, okay? But they're getting closer. So the intensity is building in that way. And the intensity is building when it comes to the soul essence of the cosmos, the Sun, that massive expansive force, and Pluto, deep transformation. And this is transforming old structures, outdated structures, because we're moving into a new way of being, the Aquarius energy. Okay, and I covered this in a recent report. So if this is resonating for you, or you're interested in finding out more, particularly about the dance and the dance of intensity between the Sun and Pluto, because they're supporting each other at the end of a cycle and the start of a new cycle, then check it out. Okay, I'll put the link in the description box. But that's it. It's very pivotal what's coming up with that. So this is obviously happening. This event is happening before all of this. But we've got the vertex point, that fated and destined marker at 0 degrees of Aquarius, already there in Aquarius, kind of saying, you know, this is a fated and destined moment at the start of something new, 0 degrees. Well, this is the start of something new, isn't it? Because it's the start of a new tour. So it's an absolute destined moment for this to be happening. Okay, and it's still conjunct the Sun and Pluto because they are close to one another. So there is still that kind of energy of transformation is coming, transformation is going on. So this show could be very transformative. And it's got the essence of the Sun supporting it as well, the soul essence of the Sun. Okay, massive, benefic energy of the Sun, I would say. Okay, because it's positive and it's also expansive. We'll look at Jupiter for more on the expansion side, but think of how big the Sun is, you know, and this is conjunct the vertex point here, the opening night of the show with Pluto. So it's profoundly transformative from a soul essence perspective of the universe. Okay. So I wanted to point that out. And with the pot of fortune and Pars Fortunae in Taurus, okay, Taurus is all about worth and values and resources. And it's earth energy, of course. And we've just seen that we've got the Sun in Capricorn, also earth energy, because we are in Capricorn season. And there is this trine that's actually going from the pot of fortune to the Sun and Pluto. And a trine is a positive, harmonious aspect, okay? So this is very much a fortuitous time when it comes to the transformative energy that's going on here. So the soul essence, that support from the sun, from the soul of the universe at this transformative time with the vertex there, fated and destined moment, is bringing fortune and success. And the other energy that's in the mix is Juno in Virgo, okay? And you'll see that then Juno also is in trine across to the sun. So they make that beautiful triangle. And Juno is not only in trine to the pot of fortune, but is also in trine to Uranus, the planet of change. Juno is very symbolic of love and marriage, for one thing, but I've been talking a lot about committed partnerships and supportive partnerships because it carries the energy of commitment with it, okay? And it's in Virgo, it's another earth sign. So these energies are all working together in this trine, in this triangle, okay? And facilitating change that might be needed, the transformation that's happening, and that soul essence being supported by commitments, partnerships, okay? So think of it as an event, think of it as an event with the cast and crew. This is the start of, you know, although it started before because they've been rehearsing, etc., but this is the opening night. So this is like, we're all committed to make this happen, to make this a success. So those committed partnerships are in trine to the pot of fortune, okay? So it's by those supportive partnerships working harmoniously with the soul essence that exists, yeah, that's going to bring the fortune because it's real. Earth energy, okay, that's very real energy. And Juno, I mean, I said it since I think it was the new moon in Capricorn, because that really did show about how supportive partnerships were at play to not only close out a cycle, but to start a new cycle. And this is also the start of a new cycle, isn't it? Because not only are we going to be moving into Aquarius season and the whole Pluto in Aquarius thing, which is major, but this is the start of a new cycle in terms of a tour. It's a new cycle. So committed partnerships, supportive partnerships and relationships are pivotal to the success of this, I would say, okay? Not only that, contracts are part of that, because when you think of love and marriage, you think of contracts, committed partnerships, you think of contracts. So soul contract wise, okay, going a bit deep, I know, but that is what's going to help provide the support here, because we've got Juno in trine to the sun, soul contracts, okay, and how they can work in harmony. So that's something to certainly pay attention to, I would say. Now, I wrote this down, so excuse me whilst I'm just referring to my notes, because I looked at Giovanni's chart, and I'm not going to pull that up on the screen, okay, but based on the information that's in the public domain, I looked at this against his chart, and with this particular triangle, for him, Juno is in the 10th house. For the Sun and Pluto, that's the 3rd house, and the pot of fortune is in his 7th house. The 10th house represents inner authority, but also work. The Sun and Pluto in the 3rd, well, 3rd is all about expression. And the 7th house is all about relationships with people, places, things. So this trine for him, this harmonious trine, relates to his expression. Well, what does he do on stage as a performer? They're all expressing themselves, aren't they? So this here with the Sun and Pluto, this is transformative expression for him, okay? And the pot of fortune in his 7th house, how that relates to his relationships with people, places, and things. So things, the tour, places, the tour venues, people, cast and crew, and of course the audience and those that he's going to be meeting at meet and greets and at stage door. So it's a very, to kickstart this, because obviously looking at the transits of the other shows, that's going to give further insight. But this is talking about, this is an opening event, but also the kickstart of something. Okay, so going forward, this is very fortuitous for everybody involved. Okay, but particularly with regards to Giovanni, this is to do with his work, 10th house, and that's where Juno is. So that is where his contracts relate to, well, work. It's also inner authority, but you know, we'll look at work and soul contracts. So soul contracts relate to his expression, 3rd house, where the sun is, in his work, 10th house, where Juno is. And that is leading to this pot of fortune in the 7th house of relationships. So his relationships throughout this tour to people, places, things that I just mentioned is pivotal to this. Soul contracts, but also work contracts. Okay, but think of soul contracts between other members of the cast and crew. This is people pulling together as committed partnerships to make this tour a success and having the dedication to do that. That's what's going to bring the fortune. Okay. And by the way, fortune can be anything. Fortune can be joy, love, abundance. Okay. It's not just money. Fortune is abundance of sorts. Okay. But it's fortune, it's success that can come from this. So these partnerships are pivotal to this. Okay. And also connecting with everyone involved. Okay, but that's just to give you some insight into for Geo where that's all happening. Okay, now I mentioned about the moon and Jupiter up here, and if you notice that they're both at 6 degrees of Taurus, excuse me, so they are exactly conjunct, not by minutes but by degrees. So they're on top of one another, basically. So the moon in Taurus is very much about knowing one's worth, not settling for less. Okay, I know what I want. I know what makes me feel good. And, you know, I like this kind of luxury. It's having that sort of luxurious feeling about life. Okay. And Jupiter is all about expansion and also luck. Okay. So relating to all of that, and because the pot of fortune is also in Taurus, there's a lot to be said about the luck that can come from this when you know your worth and when you understand that if this is what makes me feel good, this is going to be fortuitous. And getting that joy, feeling that joy and feeling your worth through that joy is what is also going to allow for that expansion within one's worth and values as well. Okay. But the 6 and 6 was very symbolic for me, okay, because last year when Giovanni did his Made in Italy tour, which by the way was one of the best things I've ever seen, so much so I saw it 5 times. But one of the dates was the Palladium, and I was guided to do an astrology report for that. Okay, again, based on the information that's in the public domain for Geo, and looking at the transits, I was guided to do it. So I did it. And there is something about this 6 and 6, which I'll show you in a bit. Okay, but I won't show you his chart. I'm just going to show you this alignment, because this number in itself, like 6, 6, okay, if we take the zeros out of it, 66 represents prosperity and balance. Okay, and for the Palladium gig, the pot of fortune that I've just been talking about was right on top of Giovanni's North Node. And the North Node represents purpose. And there were other aspects as well, but that was the moment for recognition, for success. And he'd already said beforehand that he'd wanted to make it to the Palladium. He's got big visions for things and he makes it happen. He's very regimented like that and very driven, okay, by this. And I found it very interesting because whilst I was looking at this, again, I was guided to look back on that report, and that's when I saw it. So that's what Spirit was directing me to, okay? So the pot of fortune was on top of his North Node at that point. And that could have been a moment that was really significant for him as part of his tour. Okay, and it's not to say that other points haven't been successful, but that was a pivotal moment, and the recognition and the praise that he got from that event, okay, could have propelled him forward even more. So in the case of this, okay, knowing what's going on with the pot of fortune and the vertex point, very fated and destined, the start of a new cycle, transformative, emphasis on soul contracts, committed partnerships to bring in the fortune, and the expansion of knowing one's worth. It's still all part of that, okay? But there is that synchronicity with the 6 and the 6 degrees. So there we are. And what we've got is we've actually got a trine from the moon and Jupiter going down to Mercury and Mars, okay? So it's mainly for Mercury, okay, 5 degrees. Mars is obviously there as well. But Mercury, that is all about communication and expression. And Mercury is in Capricorn, so there is a realness to this. This is a kind of, it could be a blunt reality, especially if you're communicating to somebody. It can be kind of quite like truthful. It can be quite harsh. It could come across as quite harsh because it's real. It's sort of devoid of emotion. It's kind of straight talk. It's that. And so expansion, this expansion and that feeling of being content in one's worth and owning it and feeling that luxurious feeling of this comes from the realness of the expression. Okay, and I'd already mentioned that the 3rd house for Giovanni, which is the house of expression and communication, is where the Sun and Pluto is transiting through for him. Okay, so it's you know, the soul level here, the transformation going on here. So this realness in his expression, not to mention his masculinity, because of course Mars is there as well. This is realness, real masculinity, okay, is going to enable this expansion and this luck for him, okay? And generally, as an event, it's the same applies, okay? But this is about realness, authenticity of communication and expression in order to provide that expansion in one's feelings, to feel good and to know one's worth, okay? So we've also got a trine here, which is from Vesta in Gemini to the South Node in Libra, okay? But first of all, we've got this opposition energy between Vesta and Venus and Ceres, okay? They're both in Sagittarius. So I just mentioned about the masculine energy, which provides the realness, the authenticity, and almost the raw expression. So we need to look at the feminine because regardless of gender, we've got both within us. We've got the nurturing, creative side of the feminine, and we've got the courage and drive of the masculine, okay? And the ultimate is to have both balanced. So we'll look at the feminine, which is Venus, and it just so happens that Ceres, which is also divine feminine asteroid, can also be symbolic of expansion, is right there as well. But opposite Vesta, another feminine energy that relates to the sacred flame. So when we say about the sacred flame, what sparks that flame within? What sparks you and inspires you to create from that place? Okay, so if we're looking at this as an event and we're looking at it as a performance, and dance is that passion, dance is that sacred flame, okay, for everyone that's performing, or of course singing, you know. So performers the sacred flame is about performing. Okay, and that's where their joy is, and you know, that also, by the way, allows for expansion of that feeling of luxury, because when you're doing more of what you love, you're expanding yourself full of that joy, that energy, and that's what gets relayed out to others that are watching it. So it's a feel-good factor from both sides. The audience feel it and feel good because the performers are really enjoying themselves, doing what they love. And also the performers are thriving off the audience loving it, because they know that, you know, they're responding to what they're performing, to what they're actually delivering. So it's a two-way street. Okay, and again, that is also a supportive partnership, by the way. Okay, so that's also bringing the fortune. Okay, so this opposition energy, that could just represent that push-pull type energy when we're looking at it in a chart. But here it's kind of saying, well, okay, Venus is all about that heart energy of what brings us that Venus joy, what brings us that happiness within the heart space. Okay, and that is very much tied into the sacred flame energy. And it's understanding what it is. Now, Vesta is in Gemini, so that's giving a sort of, let's look at things from both sides, or let's be a bit curious. And how that could be kind of tied in with that feminine energy. So when we look at Venus in terms of investments, where are we investing our time, energy, love, money, attention? Are we getting that energy back to fill our heart space up? So it's that Venus investment, if you like, in this particular case, because we know if there's love in the room, that you're going to feel the love in the room, okay, because I've just explained that. It's a two-way street. But in terms of it being the opening night of a show, okay, it makes sense to me, the opposition energy with Vesta and the fact that Vesta's in Gemini, because yes, the sacred flame is the show, the performance. But the opposition energy is kind of like, well, this is a discovery, because Venus is in Sagittarius, which is learning and discovery. So it's learning and discovering if this investment is actually going to be successful. And by that, I mean, if it's going to return that Venus energy into the heart space of the organizers, of the performers. And Vesta in Gemini is the curious kind of investigative side of it, to say, okay, let's be curious. We don't really know if this investment is going to bring this. We can kind of say it is, because we've got the fortune here, we've got the fated moment. If these supportive partnerships kind of work in harmony and they bring that luck and abundance and joy, of course it's going to be a success. But whenever you start something out, even just generally the start of a new cycle, it's that leap of faith. So this is about, okay, let's hope this investment pays off. Let's hope this show is a success. And of course, being curious enough to go with it and understand that this is a learning experience, okay? But there is a trine from Vesta to the South Node. So in terms of kind of that karma from sort of where we've come from to where we're going, because we're heading more towards purpose, okay? This is saying, because it's in Libra, it's about laying that foundation of reciprocity and equal give and take. So if the show has that sort of intention, putting on a good show and giving the audience what they want, driving it forward, you know, to satisfy them as the audience, to satisfy us as the performers, etc., then of course that's going to lay that reciprocal foundation that's going to enable the sacred flame to be fueled even more as the tour continues. But it is that learning experience, because from this show, other shows will then come from it, and you always learn from the last ones. You want to develop and evolve. Okay, so Made in Italy was made in Italy. This is Let Me Entertain You. So it's obviously going to be different, but it's possibly going to be built on what kind of things worked well in the last tour and what didn't work so well. Okay, it's a learning experience. So that's what I would say with regards to that point. Okay, now I have to mention Neptune, because Neptune is that dreamy planet. It also rules the media, so I'm just going to put that out there, but it's a dreamy planet. We have to look at light and shadow of both things, but Neptune is not in retrograde. Okay, there is a square that's going to Venus. So when I said about investments, okay, this is about being realistic, okay, because the shadow side of Neptune can be fantasy land, illusion and confusion. Okay, so this is about being straight out with that Mercury in Capricorn, real talk. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going forward. Okay, let's be real about this, and let's bring our dreams into reality, but let's make sure that these dreams are realistic to apply our investments in. Okay, of course, for the audience, it's going to be a dreamy experience. Sitting in the theatre and watching the show. So it is going to be dreamy. And there is a sextile that's going across to the pot of fortune. So the dreaminess also links in to this fortune, this joy, this luck. And it is like this fantasy type experience, because you're immersed into this other world when you're watching a show. Any experience like that. So that's really working in harmony to bring forth that joy and abundance, okay, that fortune, that luck. And there's also a sextile to the sun. So it's very much about, and bear with me, I did just actually, there was something that, yeah, okay, apologies. I'm a Pisces, by the way. My ruling planet is Neptune, so I'm a bit all over the place. That's me. But yeah, this sextile is also going to the sun. So it's the very intuitive nature, okay, of this dreaminess that's you can immerse yourself in for this moment. And that's, I suppose, mainly for the audience, but also for those involved, because it is a dream. It is a dream to be performing another show. It is a dream to be out there on stage again with a lot of sold out dates. I mean, how amazing is that? So of course that dream is bringing in the fortune. Okay, Saturn also, okay, Saturn is quite harsh energy, but he's being softened a bit by the Pisces energy, but he is wanting us to get in alignment with our spiritual truth. And there is this sextile that's actually going to the moon and Jupiter. So it's a very, I would say it's quite a regimented way, but in a softer sort of sense, because Saturn is, of course, Capricorn energy. So it can be quite harsh. And this is all about lessons, but there's a sextile here. So we're feeling good about what we're discovering, what we've covered already, what we're discovering about how this might unfold and how it's making us feel, etc. And that in turn is allowing certain lessons to be learned, I would say, as well, as part of this journey, but also being able to almost put your own rules and boundaries in place, and how that's making you feel in terms of worth and values, allowing for that expansion. And a lot of it has come from the inner growth, and it's now being reflected externally, okay, from a spiritual perspective, because it's Piscean energy. But there is also a sextile to Mercury. So again, it's the realness. It's the realness of everyone involved in this particular show, this particular tour. It's the realness. So there's realness to this, and there's also the dreaminess, okay? And it's balancing those two, but it's making Saturn happy in this way, because they're sextiles, which is a positive aspect in astrology. So they're working together in this way to almost be very structured, okay? Because Saturn is also business focused. So what I was saying before about contracts and committed partnerships, and all being together to work towards that goal, that harmonious partnership energy that's going to allow for that fortune, but also on a soul level, it's really going to inspire and transform. Well, of course, Saturn is going to be happy from the work perspective because it's very much hard work, this is. So the realness is contributing to the hard work, as well as the expansion that's going on because of the other things that I've mentioned. Okay, and how everybody feels with that moon in Taurus at the point of the opening night. This is about knowing what feels good to you and knowing what you like and knowing what you want. So that's very real as well, isn't it? And that's what Saturn likes, when you know completely what it is that you want and you go for it. So that also is going to bring the fortune. Okay. But I would say absolutely emphasis on these partnerships. And for Giovanni particularly, because this is going on with his 10th house, 3rd house and 7th house, this is very much about his contracts, his committed partnerships as part of this venture, and how that's working in harmony for his work, relating to his expression when it comes to that real, authentic expression, and his masculinity, and also how that relates to how he connects with people, places, and things on this tour, okay, to bring about this success. Now, what I will say is at the end of this tour, okay, 30th of April, we'll then be in Taurus season, okay? So that is still Earth energy, but at the moment, Capricorn season, okay, that is, it's a bit harsher than Taurus energy, I would say. It's still quite grounded though. So we're starting it off in a grounded way, and the tour is going to end in a grounded way. So it's going to be a beautiful sort of cycle in that way. And I'm just going to refer to my notes again, because when I looked at the closing night, and I haven't got this chart to show you, but I looked at it. The sun will be in Taurus, as I said. There'll be a Saturn conjunction with Giovanni's moon. Okay. So yeah, very much kind of business focused, but in terms of how he feels at that point. So it's obviously the end of a cycle, and that feeling of kind of completion with regards to this project, and possibly what's next, you know, thinking about what's next. And there will also be a conjunction between the pot of fortune and Giovanni's Chiron, which represents his healing journey. So this tour, okay, is going to be also a healing experience for Giovanni as well. And that healing experience, and think of the profound transformation that Pluto's bringing, is going to bring him that fortune associated with Pars Fortunae. So when I say fortune, as I mentioned, it can be joy, luck, love, abundance, okay? Fortune comes in many ways. It could just simply be a reflection on the show. What an amazing show that was. I am completely fulfilled. That could be it, but a realness to that, and how it has healed him, how the tour has healed him, okay? And how he has also allowed his healing journey, okay? And I'm saying this in general terms because we're all on a healing journey of some kind, because we're learning more about ourselves. So take it with a pinch of salt, okay? I'm not saying he's broken or anything, far from it. This is about us evolving and healing, okay? And his Chiron represents his healing journey, like it does for all of us. And Chiron himself is in Aries, in the collective, okay? His is not in Aries, but I'm saying the collective one. Here is Chiron, okay, next to the North Node, okay, in Aries, which is all about sovereignty. So we are all, as a collective, healing our sovereignty. We're becoming more empowered as sovereign beings, leaders of our own lives. He is an entrepreneur, so he's very much meeting that anyway, okay? But in terms of anything else going on, in terms of evolution, transformation, healing, this tour is going to be extremely cathartic for him, and it's going to bring him the fortune at the end, because the pot of fortune is going to be right on top of his Chiron. at the end. Okay. So it's big, and I would say it's going to be an extremely successful tour, and I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see how different it is from Made in Italy, and for us as the audience to be in response to that, you know, to kind of give that joy back to the performers on stage. Okay, that's what I would say. So I hope you found that interesting. And just very quickly, I'm going to just show you what I was alluding to before with the Palladium. Okay, and here we go. What I've done, because I'm not going to show you the full chart, obviously. This is actually from my report that I did, which is based on Giovanni's charts and the transits of the Palladium. And I mentioned, didn't I, that the pot of fortune was right on top of his north node. There you go, 6 degrees, 6 degrees. Okay, and not only that, you know, his north node generally is 55 minutes, 6 degrees, 55 minutes of Aquarius. What season are we going to be heading into soon? Aquarius. Where's Pluto heading soon? Aquarius. What's Pluto doing there? Oh, he's in Aquarius. So this is massive fortune and luck, joy, prosperity, abundance, love for Giovanni Panici when it comes to his purpose and how he's moving forward in this innovative time of Aquarius. Okay, it's massive. It's massive. All he's got to do, really, and he hasn't got to do anything, obviously, because it's his free will, but I'm just saying, in my expression, all he's got to do is believe in himself. Okay, that's what he's got to do, because with that for the opening night, and with the moon in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus, with that conjunction that matched exactly what I've just shown you there, it's knowing his worth is what's going to allow for that expansion. And his masculinity, with what's going on with Mars, and obviously Mercury is there as well in Capricorn. This is about really powering forward with that masculine drive, not forgetting the feminine side. You've got to nurture oneself. You've got to give yourself self-love. So have a salt bath every now and then or whatever. But this is about really embodying, because obviously this tour, a lot of stamina is going to be needed from all concerned. You know, it's not just Geo, is it? It's everybody concerned. And if I was looking at their charts, I'd be giving you insights about that. But this is just to give you an example of Geo as the leading man. Okay, that trine, I wanted to let you know where that's happening for him, because it is very much connected to his expression, his authentic expression. He's a performer, so his authentic expression is connected to that. It's connected to the supportive partnerships around him, okay, and the contracts going on related to work. And also that fortune, that luck, that joy, that abundance that he's attracting from knowing his worth and enabling change, or just being open to change in that way, okay, because Uranus was there as well. But it's a deeply transformative time. It's the soul level is there as well, but it's the expression that comes from his soul, because that's happening in his third house. So it's that realness. And he is a Virgo, okay, so Juno is in Virgo, and that's his 10th house. So that's his 10th house of work and inner authority and social status. So it's very much linked into this. But I'll stop going on about it now. Maybe I'll come back again and do another report for the closing night if there's interest in it, of course. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that out there. As I say, it's for entertainment purposes only. And of course, anybody going to see the show, I'm sure you're going to have an amazing time. And I wish all the cast and crew the best of luck for this next 3 and a bit months. It's going to be epic. It's going to be amazing. But know your worth with it all. And really, that authentic expression is going to allow for that love to be reciprocated. Okay? All right. So until the next time, take care of you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.